Hello, in this video, I will talk about design and adaptation of materials. In this regard, the first thing to take into consideration should be students' profile. For example, age, gender, learning styles, and personality. Also, materials should comply with the syllabus institution, like be within the context of a series of lessons. It also should balance difficulty in grammar and vocabulary, making it suitable for the level of students. And also, it should be considered to comply or to be part of a 4 skills integration: writing, speaking, listening, and reading. What teachers take into consideration at making material differs from teacher to teacher. Personally, I consider the material I am provided with at the institution. I take the books and try to adapt them to the profile of students and include my own materials. For example, nowadays, students enjoy a lot videos and songs, and some of them are very kinesthetic. And most of the time, books do not include enough of these activities. So I take the topic of the class, the materials from the book, extend them, include my own activities, enrich them so that they are tailored specifically for some students in particular. And that's how I create my own material. I try to make it visually attractive and include audios. Oh, something else that I almost forget, very important. Nowadays, students have a short attention span. So when I design material, I take that into consideration. I try to make activities no longer than 10 minutes so that students are focused on them and then can go from one activity to another and feel the class is dynamic. Okay, what do students think about alternative materials? They love it. They love it because most of the time students complain about the book. Since students have the book already, they go through it, see it, and see that sometimes it's repetitive and monotonous, right? Most of the time when I say open the book, students show a disclosure of boredom, but not all the time, but most of the time. So that what I do is just not abuse the use of the book, just maybe use a couple of activities from the book and then change it to some activities that I include for the book. And I always try to get feedback from students and include them, make them participate in the selection of activities. I ask them what they like, what they don't like, what they would like to see in their next class, what they consider is, well, not more fun, right? Because to me, classes should be fun, but also effective. I mean, the main goal is for students to learn, right? And secondly, is that they enjoy doing it. And if they don't enjoy it, they will hardly learn, So I always try to make that together. It's not like I'm going to watch cartoons or whole movies, because some of the time students want to watch whole movies. I go like, if you want to watch movies, we can adapt some fragment, 3-4 minutes of a movie with within a grammar that we can practice some grammar of vocabulary that is included in the class. In this course, I have learned very interesting things regarding materials. First of all, I enjoy how we compare different kinds of syllables. And then as I read about them, I remember some of the syllables I had to use in the different institutions I have worked for and how I had to adapt materials to comply with each one of them. Such a challenge it was. Then later, it was very interesting to see the trend in materials and how materials have evolved, particularly with the inclusion of new technologies such as CD-ROMs and internet. Nowadays, books or textbooks for English teaching include very attractive materials suitable for students of different ages and include the 4 skills in a very dynamic way, very different from books from the past that I find nowadays out of context or outdated for some students. Yeah, because I have tried to use books from the past that I consider very effective, and definitely it has been very hard to use them with students nowadays because they find them boring. Well, then also evaluating material was very interesting for me because I have never done it, or I had never done it. Now I think I can evaluate, and the thing, well, the important thing is not evaluating the materials, but the parameters we use to evaluate them. So now we know, or I know, what aspects should my materials comply with in order to make them effective, right? And then I can re-evaluate modify, adapt, and re-evaluate my materials constantly to measure if they are complying or they are helping me achieving my teaching goals. Then later, how to design materials. There is a procedure suggested by Mike Donald and Sean, and also by Jolie and Polido in the bibliography that I find very interesting. I mean, I use some of the steps they suggest, such as taking students' characteristics into consideration and level of difficulty, among others. But it is very interesting to see how we can follow their advice step by step to design our material. Every teacher is going to design their material according, well, at least they should, according to their students' profile. But this is a very nice guide. They can take whatever it's very valuable. Take whatever is useful, they consider useful for them. The part that I loved a lot is a series of questions that I should make before evaluating or at designing and adapting my material. Like, what is my goal? What do I want the students to do at the end? How can I get them to do it? What is the input I'm going to use? And it includes also micro skills. I love this idea of micro skills, for the 4 abilities. And so that, for me, it's very important to include the 4 abilities in the class, but I always inform one of them more than the others. Like, for example, in a class, I try to enforce more speaking, and I include some writing, some listening, and some speaking. But I encourage more listening, for example, right? Or I encourage more writing, and I include more activities to that particular skill, but with the support of the other 3. I also like the techniques for adaptations of materials. An experienced teacher usually finds not very complicated to adapt materials, because we have classes, we know students, and then from our experience, we realize what should be included in the classes so that they are more effective, right? But then McDonough and Shaw offer a guide, right? A diagram, a flow for adapting material that goes from match of congruence, external criteria, internal criteria. Well, that's just making the material that we're including in the original materials that make it congruent, coherent, that it matches, that it has a sequence within the context of the lesson, right? And then we can add things to the material, delete, modifying, simplifying, reordering. We can do whatever we want. We can manipulate the material as we want, so we comply with our goal, right? That is going from point A to point B, which is helping students learn, right? So basically, that's what I have learned in this course. I have learned a great deal of how designing and adapting material, how to evaluate it, and how to make it more effective with a higher percentage of success for my learning, for my teaching experience. Thank you very much.